Now we are getting into the understanding of reaction mechanism in organic chemistry. For that we need to know a fundamental few things, very easy things. Just listen to it properly. You can use it at different places in organic reactions. Now all of us know that in organic chemistry and organic compounds, all the bonds are covalent. That is, the bond is formed by the sharing of electrons by either of the atoms. So suppose there is a compound like this AB, that means that in organic chemistry this is a covalent bond. A gives its electron, one electron, B gives its one electron. I have written half arrow or fish hook arrow. This indicates a single electron system. So A gives one electron, B gives one electron, it is shared to form the bond. Now during a chemical reaction, bonds will necessarily break. So we are going to talk about breaking of bonds. This compound AB can undergo breaking of the bond in two ways, either homolytically, it is called homolytic fission, wherein A gets its electron, B also gets its electron. This is a homolytic fission. Whereas another type of fission is this. It is called heterolytic fission. Where the bond breaks at one end, where A loses its electron, B gains the electron of A. So the bond pair electron completely goes to B. A therefore becomes a positive ion, B gets its electron and A's electron, it is now negative. Here the fission products in chemistry are called radicals. So you get radicals. There is a difference. These are radicals which do not have any charge. So they are chargeless, hence called free radicals. These are radicals which have charge. So you call them as charged radicals. So free radicals and charged radicals. So these are the species generally that we will encounter during a organic reactions. There will be cases where you get free radicals, cases where you get anions, cases where you get cations. Because organic chemistry generally deals with carbon chemistry, so the product of a reaction, the fission of a reaction could either be a positive ion, a negative ion, or a free radical ion. Carbon cation, carbon anion, or free radical. So these are the possible fission products during a reaction. Generally carbons are electropositive in nature, most of the radicals will be carbon cations. So we are going to talk about cations, anions, free radicals obtained during an organic reaction. Let us talk about carbon cation first. Carbon cation are two types. One is a trivalent carbon cation, it is called a carbenium ion, and a pentavalent cation called a carbonium ion. But we commonly refer to them as just carbon cations. Carbonium ion actually refers to a pentavalent positive carbon, and carbenium ion refers to a trivalent positive carbon. Now, a carbon cation, as we said earlier, can be three types. A primary carbon cation, secondary carbon cation, a tertiary carbon cation. Depending upon the number of carbons to which they are attached, primary, secondary, tertiary carbon cation. Each of them differ in respect to their stabilities. So, their stability is related to their chemical environment. So, during a reaction which will be formed easier, which will not be formed, etc., is a very essential input for us to predict a reaction. So, we need to talk about the stabilities of carbon cations. Now, carbon cations we said are three types. Their stabilities are different. So, their stability is affected by many features. First thing is inductive effect. What is inductive effect? Inductive effect is related to a special feature found only in organic compounds. Suppose you have a compound like this. The chlorine atom, I am just putting numbers on the carbon. The chlorine atom is directly bonded to the first carbon. We know that chlorine is electronegative, so that end will be delta minus, this will be delta plus. Because the shared pair electron is shifted towards chlorine atom. When this becomes positive, the neighboring carbon also will shed a little of its electrons, it also becomes slightly positive. This also slightly positive. As we move ahead further, the effect of the chlorine is decreased. So, the chlorine pulls electrons towards itself. Through a carbon-carbon chain it is dissipated. This tendency is referred to as inductive effect. The shift of electrons towards or away from an atom through a carbon-carbon chain is referred to as inductive effect. Inductive effect is symbolized as I, and there are two types of I effects, plus I and minus I. Electronegative atoms generally show minus I effect. They are electron withdrawing effect. Electropositive systems generally release electrons, they are called as plus I effects. So, these are the two important effects, plus I and minus I effects. In a tertiary carbon cation, it is bonded to three carbons. Carbons are electropositive, therefore, they have an electron release effect, it is called as plus I effect. This also releases electron, this also releases electron, therefore, the positive charges compensated to a great extent. Tertiary carbon cation is therefore highly stabilized. Here, help is from 2, comparatively less stable. Here, help is only from 1. So, in general we say a tertiary carbon cation is stable than secondary and secondary is stabler than primary. So, this is the order of stability of a carbon cation. For this you must remember, because this will tell you why a bond may break or not break, etc. So, order of stability of carbon cation. One of the reasons is inductive effect. So, let us conclude. Inductive effect are of two types, plus I and minus I. Minus I is electron withdrawing effect, plus I is electron releasing effect. Carbon generally show plus I effect, fluorine, etc. show electron withdrawing. The stability of a tertiary carbon cation, we explained those by inductive effect. So, actually the stability of tertiary carbon cation is so large that the stability could not be just explained due to inductive effect. And therefore, when more ideas are put into it, they came out with a very interesting phenomenon called as hyperconjugation. What is hyperconjugation? So, in this example of a tertiary carbon cation, there is a positive carbon atom. The neighboring carbon has 3 hydrogens. These hydrogens are now referred to as the hyperconjugative hydrogens. Here this carbon's hydrogen donates its electron and it becomes like this. The detached H plus does not go away, it remains without a bond attached to the pi electron cloud. This phenomenon is called as hyperconjugation. Very easy for you to remember these 3 things points in hyperconjugation. Temporarily a sigma bond gets converted to a pi bond. The detached hydrogen atom does not go away, remains bonded without attached without a bond. And the pi bond could be here or here or here. We call it as what? Delocalization of pi bond. So, the 3 important features of hyperconjugation is a sigma bond or a charge temporarily becomes pi bond. Pi bond can get delocalized, the detached atom remains bonded without a bond. Therefore, it is also referred to as a no bond resonance. Hyperconjugation is also referred to as no bond resonance. Here, these 3 hydrogens can take part in hyperconjugation, these 3 can take part in hyperconjugation, these 3 hydrogens can take part in hyperconjugation. So, we say there are 9 hyperconjugative hydrogens. So, as the number of hyperconjugative hydrogen increases, stability increases. Okay. This is something that you need to remember. Clear? More the number of hyperconjugative hydrogens, more stable will be the cation. So, here you got 9. So, this is another very interesting phenomenon found in organic chemistry. It is also referred to as a no bond resonance. No bond resonance. Next, we are going to talk about an electromeric effect. What is an electromeric effect? Electromeric effect is a simple technique where it is found that there is a temporary shift of pi electrons to one of the bond atoms, and it generally takes place just before a reaction. For example, look at this compound. Here you got a pi bond. When it reacts with HCl, HB or whatever it is, at just before the reaction commences, the pi electron shifts to one of the atoms. This phenomenon is called as electromeric effect, and this becomes CH3 CH plus CH2. Now, another interesting example of an electromeric effect is in carbonyl compounds. Here the bond is polar, this also is a polar reagent, delta minus will try to attack the positive carbon. When it reaches here, why it reaches here is an interesting phenomenon takes place where just before the reaction the shift of the pi electron takes place, and now temporarily it becomes like this. This kind of a shift of the pi electrons to one of the bond partners is referred to as electromeric effect. So, electromeric effect also are of two types, plus E and minus C. If the carbon becomes plus because shifting towards a more electronegative atom, it is called a E plus C effect. If just in the case of alkenes, the carbon gains an electron, it is called as a minus E effect. So, electromeric effect is a temporary effect which takes place just before the reaction. Inductive effect is a permanent effect. As long as the electronegative atom is there, the bond will be, bond electrons in the carbon chain will be shifted. That is a permanent effect. Electromeric effect is a temporary effect. Another couple of things that you need to know is an electrophile and a nucleophile. These are words that we will be using at different places in organic chemistry. Electrophile, nucleophile. Electron loving species or electron deficient species are called as electrophiles. Nucleophiles. Electron rich species are generally called as nucleophiles. So, electrophiles, nucleophiles. Now, electrophiles can be positively charged ions or neutral electron deficient groups. Whereas nucleophiles could be negative ions or neutral electron rich species. I will tell you a very easy method to remember these two category of compounds. Generally, positive ions we can easily find out. How do you find out neutral electron deficient species? My simple method to remember them is, think of such groups, MX3 type groups. What do you mean by MX3 type groups? M refers to a central atom, X refers to electronegative atoms, AlCl3, SO3, BF3. All these are electron deficient species because 3 electronegative atoms on a central atom. So, the central atom now, though it is neutral, will be electron deficient in nature. So, positive ions or neutral electron deficient species of the category MX3. So, you do not have to by heart, you can remember most of the groups. Next is nucleophiles. Negative ions we can easily find out. What about the neutral electrophiles? Neutral electrophiles are those groups where the molecules have lone pair of electrons, or so such groups are called as nucleophiles. So, they could be negative groups or neutral molecules which are electron rich, and electron rich generally refers to what kind of groups? Groups in which there are lone pair electrons. Okay. This is the easiest way to remember them. So, electrophiles, nucleophiles, then you have got another category of groups called ambidient ions. Ambidient ions or groups are those where the negative or positive charge could reside on either of the atoms of a group. For example, cyanide. Cyanide is an amphoteric ion. It is a dipolar ion. It is called an ambidient ion. Why? Sometimes the negative charge can reside in the carbon atom, sometimes the negative charge will be, or the electron rich center will be nitrogen atom. Such groups are called as ambidient ions. So, you got electrophiles, nucleophiles, and then the third category called as ambidient ions. Easy to remember electrophiles, check whether it belongs to MX3 type. Easy to remember nucleophiles, check whether they have got groups which have got lone pair electrons. Ambidient ions, cyanides are there, nitriles are there. So sorry, cyanides are there, nitronitrite groups are there, they also can show this ambidiene pair. Even some, for example, this also could be, water molecule could also be referred to as ambidiene because it has an electron rich center, the oxygen atom, and electron deficient system like H. So such groups are called as an ambidiene ion.